how often you're training, how hard you're training. And he couldn't even really identify that. He was just saying, I'm rolling 6 days a week, and I just train. And that was the first thing I had to address. Because if he's unable to be intentional about training hard or training lighter, then you're always putting your body at a state of being overworked or overstressed.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Grappling Monthly Podcast. I am very excited today to be joined by Diana and Kris of Open Mat Physio. And Pohada responsibly.
That is our logo or our saying.
I love it. I love it. I want to get into that absolutely and get to know you guys. As usual, if you're enjoying the content, please comment, share, subscribe. Let us know who you'd like to see us interview next. Anything helps. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice. Diana, I might start with you. Since we were chatting on Instagram, I noticed that you were doing a workshop. I think it's upcoming actually. I think it's this weekend. Out in Third Space, I want to say.
Yes, next weekend.
Yeah. Oh, next weekend. Yeah. Which is a place that I will visit eventually. So look out for me. But I was curious, with how much our bodies evolve over the course of time and acquire mileage, let's put it that way, right? I was super curious to get to talk to you about like your approach and what Open Mat Physio is about and all these things. But before we get into all that, I was wondering if you could let me know, like, how did you get into jiu-jitsu?
How did I get into jiu-jitsu? So I went to PT school, went to undergrad from 2010 to 2015. I did my degree in athletic training, but for my entire life, since high school at least, I knew that I wanted to get into physical therapy, something in the rehab realm. And so after my undergrad, I went to PT school, luckily right across the bridge at my undergrad, and graduated PT school in 2017. And after I graduated school in 2017, I started my first PT job in 2018 up until 2019. It's a whole different conversation of like how we ended up here. But during that time when I first started my first job, I was a bit into still weightlifting in the gym, but I wasn't really sure if I had any specific goals with that. And I wanted to find something that was a bit different, a bit new. And I walked into a MMA style like kickboxing gym and started taking like the basic kickboxing classes, of hitting the bags. It's like cardio kickboxing.
Nice.
And one day I just remember seeing there were mats on the side and there was like a class going on. There were a couple of people wearing the gis and they were just rolling around and doing all this stuff. And I was so curious of what that was. I think I've seen jiu-jitsu a long time ago, back when I was in college, but never really explored it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go talk to the instructor. I chatted with them and he said, oh yeah, we're actually running a trial class right after this if you want to join. So I got a trial gi, jumped in, and then that was basically it.
Nice.
Jiu-jitsu has just been such a great avenue to be a beginner again. I think that's one of my favorite parts about it. But also having something that you can continuously work towards as an adult. That's tough to find nowadays.
Fair enough.
And obviously that's led us down the path of, merging the worlds of physical therapy and jiu-jitsu, which has been the biggest blessing.
Nice. Yeah. Two very compatible fields there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One breaks the body, the other one puts it back together, I guess, so to speak.
Really good business model.
Yeah. Wait a second. What about you, Kris? How did you get involved with jiu-jitsu?
Man, my dad actually.
Nice.
My dad was, born in the 50s and in the 70s when karate was really big, all the movies. He got his black belt in karate. And then in the 90s, 93, the UFC came out.
Yeah.
And my dad was like really into that. He was thinking like, how cool is this? There's karate versus like this new thing called jiu-jitsu. And he was seeing typically like a lot of other people that jiu-jitsu was like winning and a lot of things. And he was like, well, I need to get into that.
Nice.
So he started doing it. He got his purple belt. And then when I was a kid, I think he put me into it at Gracie University, which was like really the only jiu-jitsu school in the area.
Right. Yeah.
When I was like 5 years old. So I've been training since like 98.
Nice.
And
for a very long time.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I did that for a while. I stopped. picked it back up again when I met my friend Jean Machado. There's the 5 Machado brothers. The youngest of them, John, his son, who's named after his uncle, John. I became friends with him in high school, got to know him and the family, and I just started back up.
Oh,
and I
nice.
haven't stopped training since. And I've gone all over the place. I've been to different schools and academies. And I've just been pursuing my academic career as well, and graduated physical therapy 2 years ago now.
Nice.
And then I met Diana in 2020, and we were just kind of working together. And at some point, she asked me to join her. Came Open Mat Physio, and then we've just been on this journey since. So
Amazing.
training for I think like 20-ish years now.
Nice. Yeah. Torrance is like, it's pretty close to Redondo Beach too, right? So you were fortunate to really just kind of be in the birth, right?
Almost.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, well, down my neighborhood, actually, there was a garage that my neighbor had, and we were friends with him growing up. And he was like, "Oh yeah, the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I was one of their first like blue belts." And I was like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, I housed their like when they moved in the neighborhood, they didn't have like a big enough garage or something to that effect, but he let them use their like his garage for jiu-jitsu. So
Nice.
Hickson was there, all the guys that came over from Brazil.
Yeah.
So it was like I just happened to be in the right time and place.
Yeah.
For that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. It's funny because so in Canada, around the time of my teacher coming up the ranks, like he was actually similar to your father, like into all the martial arts, and like has a black belt, I think, in, I want to say karate, maybe taekwondo as well, and like brown belt in judo, all these things, and then came across jiu-jitsu at a certain point in time, but very far from Torrance, right? Where like you had like a black belt in Montreal, and so that's about a 2-hour drive, and then you had eventually New York had some jiu-jitsu there too, but otherwise, like to see one walking in the wild was like very, very rare, right? As opposed to today, which like
Everywhere.
it seems as though
Corner.
pretty much everybody, yeah. Sometimes I think like if I can get a black belt, like anybody can do it. But yeah, very cool, very cool. So by chance, you guys are both studying physical therapy. Is that how you guys met, or?
I already graduated. I graduated in 2017. As around 2020, we were both in a mentorship group.
Okay.
Online first, right?
It was actually going to be in person.
Mm-hmm.
We started in January or December of like 2019, 2020. And we did a couple in-person things. It was supposed to be like once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks. And then, boom, COVID hit, and we just obviously switched completely online.
Yeah.
And then so we were in this mentorship group, and then Kris he was applying to schools. So he hasn't
I see.
PT school yet. But then at that time, Open Mat Physio, what it was more so just an Instagram page. It wasn't until 2021 where I actually went full time with it in the fall. But prior to that, it was just an Instagram page with our other friend Daisuke, who now lives in New Mexico. He also just got back into jiu-jitsu, which we're very excited for. But he's purple belt already. Okay. He's really good.
You guys are both purple belts.
I know, it's crazy. I was like, but I can't tell him that because
nice.
But he was a purple belt at the time. It was me and him. We were like, okay, let's do this Open Mat Physio thing. And so I remember we were recording content or videos. During COVID, there was nothing else to do.
Right.
We couldn't really see people in person. So we recorded content at the clinic that he was working at. And then Kris one day just hit us up and said, hey, I'm applying to PT school. I have been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. And eventually one day I want to merge the worlds. But you guys are already doing that. How can I come and shadow you and just like watch?
Nice.
At that time, we were just recording videos for an exercise library. So we were just like, sure, whatever, come join us.
Yeah.
So we just hung out. And then ever since then, like I've known them for a really long time. And it's just been like this organic build towards, okay, well, now that we can start to create an actual practice out of it, why don't you join? Let's see if we can start to build our clientele up and being able to help more and more jiu-jitsu athletes get back to training without feeling like they have to quit because they got injured.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. And that's kudos to you for the white belt mentality approach, right?
I mean, I think like Diana and a lot of other people get into physical therapy, physiotherapy, like right out of their undergraduate, right? They're like roughly 22 years old. They get in, they finish at 25. Well, I was, I think, 27 when I got into physical therapy. So
There you
I was
go.
a little bit older, and I was just like, switched my like focus and from psychology to physiotherapy, and I was like, okay, I feel like I'm behind a little bit. I want to like, I feel hungry. I want to like get into this field more and more.
Nice.
And I think things just happen to fall in the right place.
Yeah. So one question that comes to mind, and I kind of want to ask it from both sides of the coin, is like, did you find that, Kris, for you, your knowledge of the body through having trained jiu-jitsu extensively for like a long period of time helped you throughout physical therapy, like the process of learning, and for you the other way around, like did you find that your knowledge of the body helped you in your jiu-jitsu journey?
I mean, for me, a little bit, it's like the body is just so complicated. And in jiu-jitsu, you learn how to move your own body, how to navigate things. And I think also as you get better and better in jiu-jitsu, you learn how to manipulate other people's bodies in a way that like is either dangerous, which is kind of part of the point a little bit in self-defense. Like you want to learn how to appropriately apply an armbar. You kind of feel what the end range of that armbar is, what that's like, and you can kind of know a little bit of like what hyperextension feels like sometimes. Unfortunately, you feel that and you don't want to hurt someone, but you know what that feels like. In physical therapy, we do that all the time. Like we're here and we just go like, what's this elbow range of motion look like? We're doing stuff here, and like I already had years of experience doing on someone's body. It was when my classmates are like, oh, is that hurt? Is that hurt? And I was like, I'm just extending my arm.
Yeah.
So I already feel like I had a natural touch of the body. I was also a massage therapist.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time with physical touch on the body and kind of that sensation. So I'm comfortable going into it. But I mean, the depth of knowledge that it requires, like for physical therapy, to understand mechanics and other things like that. I was a very humble white belt. I was getting my butt kicked at school.
Nice. Interesting. Yeah. What about you, Diana?
Yeah, I think physical therapy, having the background in PT, I started jiu-jitsu when I was maybe a year out of PT school, so I was really fresh as well.
Okay.
I literally just went into it more so finding a hobby, something interesting to do.
Yeah.
But I think over the years, how applying, I guess, PT, the lens of PT to jiu-jitsu has more of been the things that we try to share with our followers and our clients of, if you want to do this for a really long time, you have to look at it from a lens of your body's physical health first versus I want to get to black belt as fast as possible. Because everybody wants to get to black belt. I mean, maybe not everybody, but most people want to be able to get to black belt. But if you're unable to have your body be healthy enough or your joints to be healthy enough to get you past certain injuries or little things that happen, then you're never going to get there. So the large majority of the things that I've learned from PT of working with, I've been really lucky to have really great mentors who have worked with the highest levels of athletes outside of jiu-jitsu, like track and field and, professional sports like basketball, baseball, football. And we can take something from their books, right? Of learning how to stay healthy as we age in order to continue to compete at a high level. Now in jiu-jitsu, maybe that's not the objective. It doesn't really matter what kind of level you want to compete at, but your body still needs to be healthy enough to be able to sustain all the things that jiu-jitsu puts on you.
I agree, yeah.
So I guess from that lens, it's less of looking at specific body positioning, which obviously helps, right? When I'm rolling, now I'm noticing as a PT, if I'm rolling and I have my partner or myself, we're in like a weird position that I can just tell it doesn't feel right, I'll kind of pause and be like, is that okay? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm good. Or if something else happens, because most of the time it's like reckless things in positions that you probably, if you were aware, you could kind of be more mindful about your movement.
Yeah.
Outside of that, a lot of what we talk about is managing your intensity and volume when you train, having better strategies to recover after jiu-jitsu. That's the lens of PT that we bring in versus too specific of like, oh, I know exactly the movement and all that kind of stuff. I think you can learn that as you train jiu-jitsu, but from the PT lens, it comes from more of like the global longevity side.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think it's so complementary. I think the more that we're going to dive into it, the more I'm going to find parallels here that you guys are obviously already operating within. So that's really cool. Quick kind of somewhat comical question. Do your fingers hurt all the time? Or because of your heightened awareness and physical therapy skills, do you have no pain in your hands?
I think for me, in the very beginning, that was something, the biggest thing that I learned in my first couple years of training, and one of my coaches told me is learn how to let go first. That was like my biggest thing.
Oh, yeah.
Even up until mid blue belt,
Yeah.
I was just gripping and never letting go, even if I was in a terrible position.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like desperation of I hope this grip works.
Yeah.
But the longer I train and the older I get, the more I'm like, I grip. It doesn't really do anything for me. Let me switch to something else.
100%, yeah.
And then training a little bit more no-gi that has definitely helped with my fingers. But I don't really, nowadays they're pretty good.
I think earlier on in like my blue belt, purple belt days, my fingers were hurting. I was doing like a lot, and I think no-gi is something that's come out a lot more in the last several years.
Yeah.
I've been training for so long that I was like, I did a lot of gi.
Yeah.
But because I don't know, I felt like maybe I was a little bit of a wuss. Like I didn't do so much of I wasn't playing spider guard. My legs aren't very long, so I didn't like do a lot of that. I usually use like a collar grip, which isn't as didn't feel as hard on my fingers.
For sure.
So like someone pulling at like stripping a grip.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. I mean, I also do like a lot of massage therapy.
That's actually what
using my thumbs a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to do, but like I've had finger injuries from other sports I've played. So mostly my thumbs hurt. Not so much these fingers, but when I play, same thing.
Yeah.
Like you learn to let go and give things up for the sake of your fingers.
Yeah.
It's not fun having a finger injury.
No, for sure. I asked, and it's actually because you mentioned massage therapy that my poor wife sometimes is like, can you just a little bit over here, and I start, and then I'm like, this hurts more than jiu-jitsu. Like anyways, but no technique clearly. So yeah. So I'm curious if maybe we go into the PT lens a little bit more, right? From the outside looking in, because I admittedly, don't know a great deal other than, for instance, I think adjacent knowledge, right? Accumulated over the course of like several years of training. Like it's been about 15 years, and then capoeira before that. And for me, things like the how to become a supple leopard, or I forget we just call it supple leopard.
Yeah.
But, those kinds of books. And then, regular, like, I remember I was obsessed with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding back in the day, right? Which is more hypertrophy and things like that. But so like my knowledge is like, I think physical therapy adjacent, but definitely not like, I don't actually know anything about the discipline. So maybe you guys could educate me a little bit on, what that is and how you bring that lens to jiu-jitsu.
I think PT is interesting in a way because it, from the years that I've been a PT now, almost 10 years, next year will be 10 years,
Congratulations.
I know it's been a long time. People always ask me, oh man, like you look so young.
There you go.
But I think PT has evolved in a way with the medical system, becoming less of we are creating a diagnosis and telling you how broken you are, and then trying to help you fix you, into becoming a segment on the spectrum of physical therapy and sports performance. It's simply on a spectrum now.
Okay.
And the best PTs that I have met are the ones that are able to teeter back and forth between managing pain, but also maintaining different qualities of the body, and then bringing people closer and closer to that sports performance side.
Okay. Yeah.
So instead of thinking, okay, you have all these dysfunctions in your body, or these things are wrong, or being hypervigilant on things like posture and all that, like we talked about in our seminars, we don't think about PT from that lens as much anymore because it's becoming more of a holistic approach.
Okay.
So the more we can identify, okay, you have pain. Pain is something that's multifaceted. There's lots of different reasons why you could be in pain. Even a spike in stress can cause pain.
Yeah.
If you are always thinking about pain, there's been evidence that shows that also causes you to feel more pain. These are all things that maybe before we weren't able to identify as well because of the evidence. So with that aspect, plus on top of that, Kris was mentioning biomechanics. So looking at how the body moves, but also understanding that everybody is individually different.
Yeah.
We all have abnormalities and quote unquote abnormalities. They're not really, they're just a part of who you are. And then being able to bridge those two things and say, okay, well, where are we finding the biggest holes within what your body is able to function? And how can we start to move you towards the direction of being closer and closer to getting back to jiu-jitsu?
Nice.
So it's less of so separated now.
Yeah.
You're talking about like Kelly Starrett, of course, with Supple Leopard. Like he was a huge, even still, like just like a huge pioneer in a lot of things that we think about when it comes to active movement with PT. But also all the bodybuilders and all the fitness, you know, influencers and stuff that were really big impacts on the world. It's just bridging those two together and saying, okay, maybe we're not so separate.
Right.
Maybe we work together.
I love that.
And if we work together, then it'll be easier for us to be able to not put these thoughts in people's brains of like, oh no, PT, that's medical.
Right.
Now it's, okay, well, fitness and health, longevity, and then jiu-jitsu all together in one.
It's in the word therapy, really, after all, right?
Truly.
Because I think my exposure to PT before that was like, I got hurt. All right, I got to do this, like these slow regenerative type movements to get some feeling back and then eventually get back to a full range of motion. And then I'm done with it completely. Right.
Yeah. Or even like more classically, like on one end of the spectrum, more antiquated is like, we'll treat your pain with like a hot pack massage and some electric stimulation and maybe an exercise or two. And then we'll just kind of keep seeing you for a while. And there's no like progression into something more modern of like being a holistic, like weightlifting, athletic performance and that kind of thing. Because if we stuck with an older model for physical or for jiu-jitsu, it's like, it's really not going to last. It's not going to hold up.
Yeah. You're always going to have a hut pack on you.
Which foam rolling.
Which we talk about a lot because just back in the day when I was coming up, there was like, I was always curious about how to fix my body because I was like 16 grappling adults that were using their man strength. And like, I was in good shape, but it was like, you know, there were guys that were like full grown dads. So like, construction workers beating my ass. And like, I was like, man, I can't foam roll the way like this snapped finger that I got or this like popped elbow or something like that. I was like, I don't have enough CBD cream to do it. I'm 16. I can't go buy it.
That's it. Yeah.
It's just like, I didn't know what to do. It's certainly been like such an interesting now because I'm only 2 years into this, like the spectrum of like what there is to learn and like Diana was saying that Kelly Starrett versus Arnold Schwarzenegger versus someone else. It's like there's these dogmas of education and theory on how to treat the body, but at the end of the day, it's like Diana said, we're all trying to meld it all together. There shouldn't be like camps of like this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get it for the person in front of you? How do you meld them into what they need to be and like ultimately some kind of athlete because jiu-jitsu is pretty athletic.
It is. It takes a toll, right? And it's demanding. I think so. In recent interviews, I was chatting with Brazilian teachers that came, you know, in those early days in the U.S., bringing their Brazilian style of teaching as well, which was kind of loose, you know, kind of like, you know, I think where I'm going with this, you know, it was also kind of like, all right, I don't know if I'm progressing, but my teacher knows, so I'm just going to do what he says and that's it. And there wasn't really like a methodology per se, and systems were fairly rudimentary, right? But over the course of time, that's evolved considerably to what we see today, right? With like, I think in some cases, you know, a dedicated athlete can achieve a black belt in a much shorter period of time because they've optimized the learning so much, right? And there's so much access to information, different training partners and facilities and everything else that we know about sports, sport medicine and so on. So I wonder if it's become like an increasingly fertile ground for, well, your business model, right? Like the space that you're in, as a result. Like, are people more open-minded, you think, towards a PT that would be like, or your approach specifically that is more holistic? Or do you meet resistance? Do you find like the people are generally skeptical of something they're not maybe familiar with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a bit of both in a way.
Fair enough. Yeah.
My brain just goes to a lot of layers of like why that's the case. I do think that with the internet and with social media, it's given us a lot of opportunity to be able to have a lot of information. So everybody has exercises at their fingertips. They can always have this one exercise and things like that. But the unfortunate part of social media is that it's caused attention to be the main currency that people are trying to chase. So what happens is progressively you'll see PTs or people out there who are simply putting out catchy things that may go against what the principle of what could really help somebody for the sake of likes, engagement,
for sure,
eventually maybe even money. And that kind of works against us in a way because we're not trying to spread a message where it's about, we know this one magical stretch or exercise to help with all back pain.
Surprise, it's the couch stretch.
Yeah, it's the couch stretch. Everyone knows the couch stretch.
I love it.
And sure, it may help people. We talk about this all the time in our seminars. Some of these things may help people. But if you're thinking about long-term health, if you're thinking about building a body that's durable and resilient for jiu-jitsu and for life, that's not gonna. Right. So social media has its pros and cons. And if we are to get any resistance about the way that we do things, it's more of a lack of patience from people because they want things quickly. They're like, oh, they told me that in 2 visits I would be able to be back, or like, oh, how long is this going to take? And so a lot of our communication when it comes to talking to clients is, hey, the reality of this is that it's going to take as long as it takes. I can't force your body to get better, adapt faster. If we push it too far past its limits, it might not move as fast as we want it to because you're pushing it too far.
For sure.
But we can try our absolute best to push within what your body is able to handle. And so the more we have these conversations with people and the more they start to notice like little changes over time, they start to understand, oh, okay, this isn't a within the next 3 months sort of thing. This is a whole life thing. If I want to address some pain, cool, maybe in the first couple months we're able to do that, but that's not where we stop because you're still weak. And you're still like out of shape. So how can we figure out a better mindset and mind frame around that to be able to move forward? Now, the other piece is that I think a lot of people are much more open-minded because of all this evidence. And what I've noticed in the 4 years of doing Open Mat Physio like more full time is that I've noticed that people are in a world of generalists. So a lot of PTs, they come out and they say, I can help everyone. Which is great because if you can help everyone, then cool. Like if people want to come see you, then that's awesome. But we found that in a world of generalists, people are looking for specialists.
Interesting.
And so if we, obviously because we train, that already helps. People are like, oh, I've gone to a local PT that just more so works with general athletes. And as great as they were, most of the time the PTs are great. They're just really kind and caring because that's kind of like the personality type that you find in physical therapy.
Right. Yeah. I would hope so.
I hope so. No, they're mean.
Exactly.
But a lot of times they don't really know what jiu-jitsu is. So they're like, can you show me a video? And there's a bit of a barrier when it comes to language.
100%.
That people feel is it's lacking. And then that also what Kris mentioned with like the heat pack and the stem and all that. That's a more traditional clinic approach, which insurance and that whole conversation. But because they can only get somebody so far, we have a unique place where we don't take insurance at all. Yeah, we're doing everything virtually. So that's another really interesting part of Open Mat Physio. We're starting to do some in-person stuff soon. But because of that, people are starting to realize, oh, I do need somebody that understands me just a little bit more and understands how to get from where I am to where I need to be. Because from everywhere else that they found, there hasn't been a very clear path. As well as if they tried it themselves, they fell into like cycles of going back to train. Ooh, I flared something up. Ooh, and I'm going to rest a little bit, go back to train and I flare something. And so they're in this unknown territory that they just need a little bit of guidance. And that's what we provide. That guidance in between. So it's a bit of both. Social media is also has its pros and cons. But overall, it's been a positive. We've gotten like a positive experience from it.
Nice. Yeah. I wouldn't have known to reach out to you guys were it not for Instagram, right?
Social media is great in so many ways. You're able to connect with so many people. We're able to reach so many people. It's
Yeah.
truly really great. But then you mentioned off camera is the conversations, in-person conversations. Those are the ones that I think make the biggest difference.
100%.
And as much as we enjoy being on social media and maybe don't enjoy being on social media at times,
Yeah.
it has created opportunities for us to be able to have these seminars, in-person connections
Yeah.
that are way more impactful in the long term than the short term.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of what you just said resonated with me, particularly, I do find myself using maybe like a thumbnail or like crafting a thumbnail that's going to be a little bit more eye-catching, and then I want to shoot myself in the head. But because the video, like I put some heart and soul into the video, so I want people to watch it, but then I gotta, you know what I mean? Like I can't ignore the metrics that do at the end of the day make sense. And it's this attention economy that you're referring to that like can be great and also not so great. Right?
You got to play the game, but at the same time, you also have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what I found for sure. It's just posting on social media. It's like a double-edged sword sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also it gives you a lot to reflect on too, of what is important to you.
Yeah.
And what is your objective? What's the intention behind posting on social media? Some people want fame, and that's great. Like if that's what you want, then do your thing, right? But unfortunately that comes at the cost of maybe not being the best person at times because we're making decisions for that.
For sure.
So for us, it's a lot of trying to align with our values and things that I find most important, not falling into the traps of like posting things for the sake of getting attention.
Yeah.
Even though there's little voices in your head that are like, maybe if I just did that.
I could just find somebody who would agree for me to break their arm on camera and then fix it.
Super, I don't know, controversial.
Yeah.
But then we think back, like, no, that's just, I don't really want drama in my life like that.
We just try to be really chill and have people getting like we enjoy engaging with people. I know we do virtual stuff, but we're pretty friendly people in person. And
sometimes just kidding.
Yeah.
Wait.
On the mat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're like Diana said, you got to play into that game a little bit. But of course, like it's the game. Like I don't like using a Kimura trap when I roll, but it works. I feel like it's like very boring when I do it.
What is wrong with the Kimura trap? I love it.
There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with a little clickbait, but
it's my happy place.
I mean, that's just like a relationship.
Yeah.
That bores me, and I don't want to be a clickbait person. And you got to do it a little bit because I will still use a Kimura trap. I use the whole like system. I've learned it, done all that, but it's like, this doesn't like make me feel true to who I am when I train.
Fair enough. Yeah. So you mentioned subject matter expertise, essentially, right? With that knowledge of jiu-jitsu, working with somebody who is in jiu-jitsu, because I can tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've been to a doctor over the course of, I'm very old, over the course of my long life that, had no idea what capoeira was. And that was fair because nobody did really. But then also maybe won't take something like judo or jiu-jitsu seriously. They'll apply whatever lens or whatever reference they have, right? Which might be basketball, it might be karate, right? Exactly. And it's like, no, I didn't get punched in the face. That would be a whole other problem, right? And then you meet, I've found at least, you have like varying degrees of empathy depending on the amount of understanding they're willing to like, where they're willing to meet you, right? On like, oh, it's just a tweaked elbow, or like, I understand you may have been in a situation where your arm was twisted in many different ways, and so the fact, like, or even just likening it to a friend of mine who does jiu-jitsu and is an excellent photographer. Well, as a result, his photography of jiu-jitsu is amazing, right? Because he does jiu-jitsu. He knows how to position himself to get a nice angle, and then he has this other aggregate knowledge of photography, lighting, and everything else, right? So it makes for better photos, I think, than somebody who'd maybe be oblivious to what am I even looking for, right? Do you find that helps you when you're talking to somebody who's?
Yeah. I mean, like if you're an analogy is like you're going to another country and you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just a tourist here, and you try to talk to someone and they're like, I have no idea what's going on. But when someone speaks your language, you're like, oh, that was so much faster and easier for me,
right,
the thing I wanted to go do. And then you guys have like, it speeds up time, it makes it easier, you're happier doing it. And you're like, if that person could just follow me and we could just talk with them, like personal tourists.
Yeah.
Bring me to like the local things and be like, oh man, this would be like a really fun experience. And, the touristy stuff is fine. You can get by, whatever. But like, I think that personalized experience and the ease makes just like a better experience, and that's what we're trying to just give people with better experiences.
Yeah, nice. I'm guessing there's a very rewarding component as well, right? When you see somebody actually get better and like get back to their practice.
Yeah, I think that's part of one of the reasons why we go into PT.
Yeah,
is because we want to help people regain the things that they want to do in life. But going back to what Kris was mentioning is the language piece. That's something that we think about very often, because I think if you were to just look at physical therapy and how it is a lot about human connection, and it's about somebody who is injured, who's coming to you and being vulnerable and saying, hey, I'm injured.
Yeah,
I can't do the things that I used to be able to do, and I need help. Now think about somebody like that who does jiu-jitsu that goes into a doctor's office and gets absolutely dismissed.
Yeah.
That's a terrible experience to have, because then you start to think, well, nobody cares about what I'm going through, what I'm suffering with, and how am I supposed to even get back to train? So it sounds like a one-off, but it's a story that we hear so much.
Yeah.
People who go and talk to doctors or PTs who just don't know what's going on, and then they don't have the tools to be able to talk to the client themselves or the patient themselves, and then having also those the next steps to get back. And I always think about how ultimately, if you look at humans, the one thing that we really want in life is to be heard and is to be seen. And when you are injured, that's what we desperately want. It's just for somebody to say, hey, I can see what you're going through, and now I have the layer of jiu-jitsu, right? Okay, I can see that this is what happened.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu plays a really important piece in your life because of X, Y, and Z. And we want to help get you back to that because that's a part of your life. Yeah. And being able to speak the language also gives us an opportunity to relate on a lifestyle level. Jiu-jitsu is a very unique lifestyle. And not a lot of people understand that. But because we train, it helps us being able to do that and provide all the different layers of being human and what we seek out of being human, and then add that on top of injury, on top of having something taken away from us. If we can start to add all those layers together with PT, then it becomes a very healthy environment for somebody to get back to feeling strong, feeling healthy, getting back to train, and then ultimately feeling like their life is back to where it should be. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. It's there's a lot there to unpack. I think, yeah. I think about it all the time. All the time, literally. Yeah. Well, it's like, we were talking about potential. I think I mentioned other potential hobbies, like maybe golf or cards or things that would play next to no physical toll. As traditionally easy to like envision in your later years, right? Like 65 plus type of thing. But as far as I'm concerned, my thing is jiu-jitsu. So I'm hoping to be like, I don't plan on competing with 20-year-olds at that age, but I would like to be able to train safely and continue learning, and continue down this journey that I've signed myself up for. So, having the ability to have reliable resources that can help should, some bumps happen along the way, I think is so key. But I also like that you're looking at it holistically, right? Which I think is really important. I do want to bring up one like nemesis of mine, which is probably like a lot of people's nemesis, is inflammation. I want to maybe you guys can educate me a little bit without going through a full college degree and profession. Because and I'll tell you why, right? Like, for instance, when I started, a class was an hour and a half, right? Minimum. And it was kind of similar to a wrestling room or a judo class where you had an extensive warm up, right? With potentially some static stretches or dynamic stretches and movements. And then there was technique, and then there was specific, and then there was randori or grappling, right? You had to be able to commit that amount of time, but you had the complete experience, right? From start to finish. And
especially for people who didn't know how to move their own bodies coming into it, I found that it was really good to prevent injury and to help people learn how to move. Because so much of jiu-jitsu is learning how to move in ways that we don't necessarily know how to move in, right? With your back on the floor, for instance. But nowadays I see, like, we were talking about things being optimized, right? Sometimes you'll have, and there's good reason for it, but sometimes you might have a class where it's an hour. It's a very light roll to kind of get the blood flowing, and then technique and sparring. Or sometimes it's just an open mat. You show up cold, and then you just kind of start rolling, right? And so I think I'm going to lead us to inflammation eventually, which is, we'll take down inflammation if we can. But is there a best practice? Maybe we'll start with that. Like, as far as what you guys like to see and what is ideal for your own practice, to avoid injury and to like train for the long term.
And there's so many things.
So many things, yeah. What? Okay, if we can break it down.
Forgive me if it's overly vague of a question. Yeah.
The things that are the most important, I think, that are the most tangible. The conversation we have the most with all of our clients is managing volume and intensity of training.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you mentioned inflammation, I immediately thought of the person that is always sore,
Mm-hmm.
the person that is always achy, like they can't seem to handle. They can train and they're able to manage through training sessions, but they feel terrible a couple hours later.
Yeah.
And then that can probably last until the next day, but they're still okay enough to train.
Yeah.
So they always feel like their body's in flames. And so when we have people come to us with that, the first thing I have to take a look at is how often are you training? How hard are you training? And what is that? How can we start to manipulate that aspect so you're not overloading your body? And I actually have a guy right now that's like that.
Yeah.
And he came to us with shoulder pain, really bad shoulder pain. Couldn't even lift his arm up this far and was, but then I asked him, okay, you're dealing with probably 7 out of 10 pain on a regular basis in your shoulder.
Okay.
But he's like a, MMA background, so very like, I can just push through it.
Yeah.
But he got to a point where he just couldn't even really roll hard. So one of his training partners was like, go talk to Open Mat Physio. Okay. So the first thing I asked him was, how often are you training? How hard are you training? And he couldn't even really identify that. He was just saying, I'm rolling 6 days a week, and I just train. And that was the first thing we had to address, because if he's unable to be intentional about training hard or training lighter, then you're always putting your body at a state of being overworked or overstressed.
Right.
And so once we're able to get that under control, that's like the biggest rock that we had to move. He started to make progress in PT and it started being able to train more. But then we got to that next step, right?
Yeah.
Where he felt better, so he wanted to train harder.
Yeah.
But our job is to pull you back and say, no, you can still train at the same intensity and volume we already decided. Yeah. But now your body is more equipped for that. So trying not to let them jump over the ledge themselves. Right. What they usually want to do is, I feel great. I want to go harder. But we know that we have to pull the reins back to say, okay, let's let your body continue to progress while you're working at this intensity. And then eventually you'll be able to do more. Yeah. So I think that would be like my first thing that I would. Nice. Yeah. For injury wise. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Burnout is a real thing, and you can be burnt out from like doing too much, or also doing like not enough. And something I like to talk about a lot is when you're not getting enough is like sleep. It's like, right. I mean, so we're talking about like how much work you're doing. And
what is this sleep you're talking about?
Yeah. Do that all the time, right? Yeah. It's like, if you're burning out too much, it's like you're not replenishing. There's like recovery. And I think there's a lot of like ideas about recovery stuff that we kind of already touched upon, like foam rolling, CBD, ice baths, hot packs, electrical stimulation, pain management pills, like acupuncture, massage, sometimes like chiropractic, like and none of these things are necessarily bad. I'm not saying anything's bad, but it's like people overemphasize passive recovery things and they'll overwork their body thinking that they can foam roll away all of their inflammation. And we're not like, we're not like a like a yogurt tube. You can't just squeeze out inflammation.
I wish. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be amazing.
Rely on like natural things that are going to be doing good for you. So,
Yeah.
are you undersleeping? Because that is the one way we recharge our body. Our body is literally pumping fluids to kind of clear things out while we're sleeping,
Yeah.
so that we can kind of recover the best. And if you're suboptimally sleeping, we need to improve that. That's an obvious conversation. I really don't feel like I need to dive too deep into like the science of it, because everybody understands like, yeah, actually I feel really good when I sleep. Yeah. Maybe they're onto something here. Yeah. I know you already brought something up, and it's like, sometimes it's hard. Like I can't say like, oh, you should just sleep better. Why aren't you sleeping better? It's like, well, of course I have 3 kids under the age of 5. So, totally. Yeah. I can't really do that. Like I get that. Yeah. Or like life, stress, other things like that. It's like, all the other factors we've been talking about different times, it all plays into like the inflammation of the body. And I think, at least for the most part, besides the activity stuff, sleep is just like so important. Yeah. It's really hard for people to work on. It's hard for like mentally, it's hard to get to bed on time, figuring all this stuff out. But that in itself can just be a huge, huge factor of reducing body inflammation. I love that.
Yeah, the inflammation part. He got you with that.
Yeah.
I think the main thing that Kris mentioned that I think needs to be very emphasized is that these things are simple, but they're not easy. Yeah. So it's very simple to say, you need to sleep better, you need to do this better, no. But life is complex. Yeah. And so whenever we work with clients and we're trying to adjust some of these things for them, lifestyle things, it's always very slow. It's always very small. And we have to meet them halfway. Yeah. Like where you're willing to meet me is where I will meet you, and then we'll nudge you. It's all about nudging. We're just nudging you closer and closer in the right direction. Nice. Then another thing that I think we talk about a lot during our seminars is strength training. Strength training is probably one of the biggest beneficial things that you can add into your life that will impact you forever. Because like we mentioned in the very beginning, which was PT's on a spectrum of pain and sports performance. Yeah. Strength, capacity, endurance, all these things kind of lie in the middle of all the traits that you need to be able to get closer to, sports performance. But it also has shown that the more durable your body is, how well your muscles function, how well your joints function, how well your body functions, builds up your resilience and durability to handle things like jiu-jitsu. 100%. So if we try to give advice for people, hey, what should I be doing next to be able to help? Obviously sleep, okay, if you can focus a little bit on that. But if you can add a really simple resistance training, some sort of routine into your schedule, 2 times a week, 30 minutes at a time, I think you'll see a lot of return on investment. Yeah. Versus trying to focus on other recovery tools like the red light therapy, massage, things like that. Just because you're building your body to be able to handle more stress. And if you're underprepared for jiu-jitsu, then of course you're going to put yourself in bad positions. Yeah. But if your body's prepared and you're good at managing volume intensity, then I think you have 80% of the recovery piece covered. Nice. Versus trying to focus on like the 2%. Yeah. I have to admit, I don't think I had considered volume and intensity from that lens before, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, one of the reasons why we talk about it so often is because we, as PTs, I think we just kind of default to professional sports like basketball, football, soccer, and then we watch how those strength trainers and PTs talk about off seasons and they talk about in seasons, and there is like an off season, in season, and all the best performance coaches always talk about, especially with track athletes, volume and intensity. You don't see them going out and sprinting every single day at 100%. No, yeah. And when they sprint once and then they rest for 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. So you think, oh, okay, well, why is that why is that what they do? And so if we break down the principles, it's managing your nervous system, allowing it to recover. Yeah. And if we apply it to jiu-jitsu, then it's okay, well, you're stressing your nervous system, you're stressing your body, you need time to recover. How do we recover where we're not overloading it? Then we have to look at your schedule. Look at how intense you're training. Look at how much volume you have. And then adding that into, obviously, the complexity of life. Yeah. And then making it something that's manageable where you're getting what you need out of jiu-jitsu to progress, but also not putting your body at higher risk of injuries. Yeah. Regarding
regarding like the ideal training, right? Like it might be different for everybody. And certainly, you know, I'm imagining you guys working with a variety of clients, different ages, different body types, right? Different pursuits in jiu-jitsu, right? Like I want to be competitive versus like I do this twice a week, you know, or I do it because my kids are doing it, you know. But if you had like an ideal scenario, say for the hobbyist, right? In terms of a class layout from start to finish, like, do you like to see an extensive warm up that has people like really like dripping sweat before they start a technique? Or are you more of the like flow rollers or somewhere in between? Like, what do you guys recommend typically to like make sure that the body stays healthy as much as possible?
Jiu-jitsu black belt start.
There we go.
Yeah, 30 minutes of running,
Jumping jacks.
jumping jacks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good question. Ideal is tough. Everybody, like you said, everybody's different. We tell people that, you know, you've got your own injuries, you've got your own injuries, I've got my own injuries. If you want to be good for yourself, you should come in a little bit early before a standard warm-up or a group warm-up and maybe prep your own injuries first.
Nice.
Because that will just give you more like prompt feeling for what you need to do next. And then when you join the main warm-ups, whatever that kind of is, you're going to feel better. As far as like a warm-up is concerned, I think a warm-up is always really nice for the muscles and tendons. Like, you don't need to be panting, you don't need to be sweating, because if you go do that and then you just do like some really simple drills and feel, I don't know, I think there's like an element of the class that kind of feels a little bit like a letdown. You're like, all right, I'm pumped. You're like, all right, now we're going to go do like an Americana from side control. And you're like, oh, why don't you just run?
Yeah.
Like, and then you do that for like 30 minutes and then you go back into training, right?
Yeah.
Similar, I think it's just like joint preparation. I think it's tough for an instructor to kind of know some of the warm-ups to do, because like knowing body movements and stuff isn't necessarily their specialty. It's like, I know that we're going to be going over like maybe a wrist lock today, so we can go through wrist warm-ups, but then how they do that, it's like,
Yeah.
doing this, and you're like, yeah, well, like there's a lot more weight being pushed through that than just doing this. So what kind of things would you do? It's like maybe some push-ups, maybe some other kind of exercise, maybe little gripping things. Like you can start work on that. It warms up the elbow complex, blah, blah, blah. So like having a warm-up tailored to the move of the day, if you're teaching something like that, or just some general body preparation for like each joint to just kind of get you moving, because eventually you're going to roll. And that's not just like, oh, I'm glad you did the wrist warm-ups. Well, that we're going to go train with Eddie Bravo, who loves doing twisters. You're next ready. And you're like, that's not.
I just stretched my wrist. Yeah.
Exactly. So having a full body kind of thing is good. I think having cardio is fun. It's not my opinion isn't necessarily that like it's not the jiu-jitsu school's job to get you in shape, but it is something that is offered a lot because you're training and rolling. But I think having a better warm-up is essential, but you don't need to like run for 5 minutes. But it's very standard, and it's just kind of a tough question, because I came up in jiu-jitsu that way. I've come up in sports that way.
Yeah.
You have a group setting that you're all enduring and having challenge with. And so going into a jiu-jitsu academy where a lot of people are like sometimes very introverted and like comic books and martial arts, and then they kind of like the group thing and like warming up and having all that kind of thing. It's like, oh, there's a little bit of that, but it's their job and role. For us, I like, at least for me speaking, I think a nice whole body preparation with an emphasis on the drill that you're going to do for that day. And then prior to all that, warming up your body's own personal injuries is ideal.
Nice.
And I think that's the beauty of having so many different types of jiu-jitsu schools. Some of them are much more competitive based. Some are more family friendly, self-defense type based.
Yeah.
There's just, it's just like a business now. So you just find what fits what you want.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody has to be in a specific mold.
That's fair. Yeah.
Everyone has preferences. Like he has a preference, I have a preference, you have a preference. I think ideally for me, it would be what Kris mentioned. We're all responsible for our own warm up. So everybody should be able to have maybe 2 or 3 exercises to warm up whatever you're dealing with. And then the second part is activities that are going to get me closer and closer to full rolling. So whether that is maybe a warm-up for a specific body part. Let's say we're working a lot on de la hiba and deep de la hiba, things like that require a lot of hip rotation.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple hip rotation exercises. Okay, cool. And then we get into whatever skill we're trying to learn.
Right.
And then progressively increasing intensity of the exercise or the rounds to ultimately get to 100%. I think that would be ideal. The closer you are, I guess the activities that you're doing prior to jiu-jitsu should get you closer to doing jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not, then you have to question, okay, well, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Because not everybody has, well, nobody has infinite time.
Yeah.
We have to be very mindful about our time.
Absolutely. Especially in a city where you might be driving for an hour and a half, depending on,
be efficient about learning and skill development and stuff. So,
So it just so happens that we're driving or we're typing and or we're sitting, right? In both those cases, we're sitting. And then in jiu-jitsu, oftentimes we're forward facing and leaning and we're gripping. So everything is really kind of like bringing us like this, right? So do you in terms, if I take it back to like some strength training to help preventatively or even help repair, and some of the other things that we were talking about earlier, do you guys favor maybe like the other side, like movements that go in the opposite direction, as Kris, loosens himself up? Yeah. Or like for instance, like I found at one point that like my hamstrings were just like incredibly tight all the time, right? And then like it was difficult for me to lean forwards and touch my toes. I'm like, that's weird. That shouldn't be. So I wonder, like, do you find yourselves, since you're working with jiu-jitsu athletes of all types, like, do you find yourself talking a lot about bringing the body in the opposite direction or not so much? Am I out into left field on this one?
The C backs.
Yeah.
They were going on like the jiu-jitsu subreddit a lot.
Oh, really?
Subreddit.
Yeah.
The C backs.
Right? Yeah.
I think when we approach these situations, it's not so much favoring, but I think it's recognizing that yes, you're in this position for so long, and if we can find your weaknesses or things, and those are the things that we work on.
Right.
And it just so happens that a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes that we found have pretty weak posterior chains, glutes, hamstrings, their upper backs. Sometimes they're just weak in those positions because of the position that we are always in.
Yeah.
So yes, I guess we just naturally favor towards, some of the exercises that are going to target these positions that will combat always being so crunched in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've had cases where people are really weak on their anterior chain or even other parts of their body. That as long as we have a holistic enough approach, then we can identify where to start. But I will say yes, I think a lot of the posterior chain stuff is more prominent in some of the stuff we program, strictly because everyone is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's certainly like patterns.
Certainly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does not always fit the mold.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Individualized approaches for everybody. And, sometimes maybe we'll use like, at least for me and my general populations of people, like desk workers. Yeah. Like, well, we can start out with a little generic posterior chain stuff because we tested it. Yeah, you are kind of weak there. But then as we unravel and we kind of get you out of maybe the first phase of things, we start seeing that there's like other contributors. Like maybe there actually is something anteriorly that is contributing, but you feel it posteriorly or something like that. It's like as you start cutting the weeds, you start figuring out there's like gopher holes and you're like, let's go after this.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. There's it's funny. You remind me of like in my 20s, just, I was that typical, like, the muscles you can see in the mirror are the ones you work out type of thing, right? And then I had back pain. And I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to do more bench. And that's going to, like, straighten me out. And no, in fact, it didn't. So, surprise, right? So that was a learning for me. But so let's bring it full circle now and talk about after training. Like, do you guys favor any particular cool down? Do you I know, for instance, Alberto Crane is big into TAC-FIT. He attributes much of his recovery from a number of injuries and conditions to movement-based things and activating the parasympathetic nervous system and all these things. So does that figure also as part of PT and your approach?
For sure, 100%, because the nervous system plays a really big role in our perception of pain.
Mhm.
So trying to see where a lot of people who are in chronic pain, it's just a pattern that their sympathetic nervous system or their fight or flight, they're constantly stuck in that mode because they're in pain. And when you're in pain, your body senses danger. So when you're in danger, it's always like, oh my gosh, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we have to do is we have to start to bring your body back into the ability to relax. So something like jiu-jitsu, if you're talking about recovery, a great way to do that is breathing at the end, having some sort of breathing pattern. It doesn't really matter what you use, but deep breathing to allow your nervous system to relax back into something like rest and digest, like we mentioned.
Yeah.
But even from a PT standpoint, there's so many people that come to us that have neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain, things like that, where we assess their breathing and they are such shallow breathers. They just don't even notice it.
Yeah.
They're breathing really shallow.
100%.
And so we teach them, okay, well, how can we start to get your body back into something in a relaxed mode? Because the more you can bounce between the two, the more flexible you are when it comes to being stressed and then having to recover and then stress and recover.
Yeah.
Because if you can't recover from when you're stressed, then you're always stressed, So
Yeah.
right. Literally, if you can't recover from stress, then you're always stressed. And if you're always stressed, that's not good.
No, yeah, for sure.
So, yes, that's a really big part of what we do in a therapeutic standpoint. But I think if you want to be proactive about after training, you just had a hard training session, it doesn't hurt to do a couple minutes of just deep breathing to allow your body to recover.
Nice.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Diana said. Like we've all had those like training days where it's like really, really tough. You've gone through like a couple purple belts, brown belts, black belts. You're like, dude, I'm very tired right now. I just want to go home and like eat something and go to bed. Definitely a good reset. Like breathe it out, maybe take a moment out, maybe even take one like that last roll where maybe it's gonna put you into like too much overdrive or that like that's the last one you're like, I can do it, but I'm gonna be so spent. Like maybe don't do that. Like, that's that volume and intensity. So just take one more out and you're like, okay, may have saved myself from an injury there, may have just been like better for my whole body just to like take one off. That's okay.
Yeah.
Take some moment to breathe. I also, in addition to all that, like to have, I'm prepared. I usually have a snack in my bag.
Okay.
Like protein shake.
Yeah.
Like already made, opened it up, put some water in it. And I'm like kind of shaking up and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy. Like I got my food. I'm going to go listen to some music in the car and then like just kind of relax that way as well.
Nice.
In addition to all the breathing.
Yeah. So, I mean, the more we're chatting, the more I realize how holistic your approach is, right? Because we've talked about breathing, we've talked about like intensity and volume and so many things that in my previous perspective weren't necessarily part of PT, like, right? Like, I think I have that probably rather antiquated, like, heat patch, rest, ice, what is it? Rest, ice, compress, elevate. Yeah. Yeah.
Rice.
Added a key to it now.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Rice, protect.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So this is refreshing to see, like a full body, full mind approach. I'm wondering, like, does nutrition figure in your approach as well? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Nutrition is not in our wheelhouse so specifically because it's out of our scope of practice, but it is something that we know the basics. Hydrate, electrolytes, because you're sweating, and then eat whole foods as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
I think that is at least my approach when people ask me about nutrition, is I can't tell you exactly what you need to eat whenever, depending on your goals, but I can tell you, eat whole foods, drink water.
Yeah.
I think that's
for sure.
it, right?
Yeah, we learn a lot about it because it does involve the body, right? But we're not dietitians.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's not our thing. So it's like you've got diabetes and you're rolling, and I'll be like, I'll make sure you eat some sugar afterwards. And I'm like, well, maybe, but like, aren't you a PT? It's like,
yeah.
It's kind of finding a fine line there.
Fair enough.
Of course, there's like emergency stuff that we learn a little bit, but that doesn't really come up that often. So,
but I think there's a component to speed recovery, right? With food as well, right? And liquids.
And inflammation.
And inflammation. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, many of the things that I enjoy, as the occasional beer, ice cream, you know what I mean? Like,
it's a balance thing.
It's just
hard, but I mean, we also love a good beer and ice cream, pizza, all these things.
Yeah.
I think it's like the 80-20 whole situation.
Yeah.
As long as 80% of the time you're pretty good, 20% of the time you can have flexibility.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to build not just your body up to, is if 80% of the time you're very strict about being able to do your rehab and maintaining, 20% of the time you can be a little bit more lax.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if you guys also take into consideration, like, I'm starting to believe that everybody that's dedicated a long amount of their, like, many years of their lives to something like jiu-jitsu tend to lean towards the addictive personality. I know I have, like, full blown, like, I'm either 0 or 100% into something, right? Which has got its pros and cons. But it certainly does affect the approach that I'll take. Maybe less so now as I grow older, but, like, it would definitely affect my training. And so if I'm going to train, I'm going to train 100%, regardless of the quality of sleep I had the night before and whatever injuries I'm carrying with me into the training session, right? And sometimes I think it has to do with my personality as well as other factors, right? Ego and everything else. Like, is there do you guys take that into consideration? Is there, like, what's your
Yeah, to kind of that. I mean, maybe not the whole, like, this person's really addicted, we need to figure something out with them, but more of, like, what Diana said earlier, was like, I'm out of pain now, green light, go right back.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, guilty.
You're like, here's a bull ready to get back in the ring.
Yeah.
Ready to, like, go after that person. It's just like, hey, we have to, like, pull the reins back on the horse. And nobody's going, hey.
Yeah.
It's like, we gotta be smart, because in that addictive personality, in a sense, if we're talking about other things, it's like, you indulge so much, it provides negative feedback.
Yeah.
Negativity's gone. You indulge again, and it just kind of repeats
100%
cycles. And we're just going to be like, hey, we're trying to get you aware of what cycle you're in. We're trying to make sure that you can, like, understand your indulgences and when they're appropriate and when they're not appropriate, because 80-20% is like, yeah, sometimes that's okay, but ultimately we're trying to get you aware. Do you want to go through this again? Because when you don't have jiu-jitsu, we know you're not happy.
Yeah.
Usually people tell us that, like the first session, right? It's like, I'm very upset when I can't go to jiu-jitsu 6 times a week.
Yeah.
I understand that. And then we talk about high days and low days, some days where you can still be on the mat. I encourage people, like, I don't know, you broke your arm or something, you rolled your ankle on the sidewalk, still go to jiu-jitsu. Like, you can hang out on the side and just see your teammates.
See your friends. Yeah, absolutely.
You can ask the instructor, like, hey, what was that technique? You know, it's like, oh, your foot's better and it's not hurting. We can teach you. Yeah, but, like, talk to me a little bit. I'm like, I'm still like, I'm still, like, craving it. I want to be around it. It's like, that's fine. You know, you need to get your, like, jiu-jitsu fixed somehow, but we need to tone it down a little bit, because there's a part of it that is negatively affecting you.
Right. That's good advice.
Yeah. Part of what Kris was mentioning is, like, setting expectations. When we start working with people in the very beginning, we set expectations, especially if we can read right off the bat that there's somebody that is very, very excited to get back to train, but knows that the moment they get, like, even a sliver of a green light, they're just gonna rush back in.
Yeah.
We have to set expectations early on and say, this is how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And this is how we have to go about it, because if you push past it too far, then these are the consequences. And even sometimes people will still do that. Like, they still will go with their instincts and do that. And it's almost like we can only guide people so far until they decide that they're gonna listen. Yeah. And if they listen, then chances are outcome's gonna be good. Yeah. And if they don't, then they have to deal with the consequences, and we just continue to guide them through those consequences.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's tough at times, but I'm sure as we've gotten older, there's a acceptance that people will only change if they really want to change. And if we give them a positive environment for that, then it increases the likelihood. Yeah. They could potentially fall back into their old habits, which is fine. That's 100%, just part of life.
Yeah. I find sometimes, when you step on the mat, you're also, how could I say, like, some of your fate is up to your training partner as well, right? Like, even if you're the more experienced of the two, obviously that does help mitigate what might or might not happen. But some cases you're not the most experienced, or you're the smaller of the other fighter, so to speak, right? Or a training partner. And so they might even be well-intentioned, but get excited and you're excited. And then all of a sudden you're rolling full tilt. And then all of a sudden, there goes my shoulder or my whatever again. You know what I mean? But I think barring accidents, which can always happen, a lot of what you say is resonating a lot in terms of just being smart about it, right?
Yeah, and I think the more experience that we've had, like not only just on the physical therapy side, but also on the jiu-jitsu side, which I think, again, just going back to like me and Diana's like dichotomy of like, I've got a lot of jiu-jitsu, she's got a lot of PT, vice versa, whatever. So we're just learning like, hey, yeah, you get back on the mats, but there's like a staged progression to it, right?
Yeah.
And there's like what factors at each stage you want to kind of think about. Because like, okay, if we get you back into training, cool. I don't want you going with Chad, the spazzy blue belt, because
Poor Chad. Yeah.
Chad's gonna just like smack your finger that you just rehabbed.
Yeah, exactly.
Back, and you know Chad's gonna do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Say, sorry, Chad, we're not doing this.
We're on to you, Chad.
No pohana today.
Yeah.
Picking your training partners is a really underrated way to minimize your injuries.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think there's like the whole idea, the old school jiu-jitsu, like you can't say no to your belt.
Yeah.
But nowadays, a lot of schools are a lot more flexible with that.
Yeah.
And you can't say no to whoever. I think this applies for both men and women.
Yeah.
Especially men. Sometimes I'm like, I go with my guy training partners, and they are usually not as aggressive with me. They're more working on technique because I'm a girl. But then when I see them go with like another guy, they're like,
Yeah.
two cats just going. And then I sometimes tell them, like, I feel bad for the guys because, like, if those guys go with me, they're not going as hard because I'm a girl. But then once they go with you, they're going crazy. So I would even argue that it's even more important for guys to be particular about the training partners that they choose.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because there's some guys that are just like, well, look at Kris's black belt. And, like, they've never met him before. And they'll be like, okay.
Yeah, 100%.
And then they'll just like try to rip something crazy, and Kris is like, "Oh, come on!"
I start.
And then
with,
he just submits them.
Yeah.
I just always start with some jokes first, just to kind of lighten it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm hustling them a little bit.
There you go.
This guy, and then I'm just like joke or something.
Yeah.
Do something crazy. Kris is like, oh, "Come on!" Like, I don't want to do this to you, but unfortunately,
Yeah. I feel as though you always kind of like, you're going to feel it from that very first grip on the lapel, like if you're, or on the wrist, if it's no-gi, like wherever, right? Like every now and then there's like intensity in that grip and you're like, oh, all right, here we go. This is going to be one of those, you know? So I want maybe you guys to tell me a little bit like about, give me your sales pitch about Open Mat Physio. No. I mean, tell me about Open Mat Physio and how we can work with you guys for anybody out there who's either interested, has an injury, wants to prevent injuries, wants to talk about best practices and so on. So, yeah.
So Open Mat Physio, Kris and I, physical therapists who also train, who are our biggest goal is to provide resource to a community that has been for a very long time underserved, underseen, misunderstood, not really taken care of. And we want to bring resources to the people who feel like they can't continue jiu-jitsu because of their injuries. And we want to be able to provide a very holistic approach, less of a we're here to fix you, more of a we're here to guide you through your own experience of injury back to training, and then give you the tools to be able to manage yourself. And I always tell clients is if we have the way that we determine success is if after we're done working together, you're able to maintain your health, you're able to continue the things that you're doing, you're able to apply the principles that we taught you, and you don't need us anymore.
Yeah.
Of course, we would love to see you.
Yeah.
Whenever at tournaments or at like around open mats, but if you never have to come back to us while managing your own knee pain or shoulder pain because you've learned these things, we succeeded.
Nice.
So we want to give people the agency and the tools to be able to do that and not so much always feel like they have to rely on us. But we just want you to pohada responsibly.
Nice. I love it. I'm so excited. Yeah.
But at the same time, have a long-term mindset that longevity on the mats requires X, Y, and Z. And if you're willing to put in the work, then you can have it.
Nice. And how do we contact you guys? Is there a website? Is it through Instagram?
Open Mat Physio website, Open Mat Physio. You can DM us. I'm chronically online, so I will answer all the DMs.
We all are at this point.
Chronically online.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check out our website. We have everything on there of like our services. We also have a podcast ourselves.
Nice.
And we have a couple shirts that we are running out of, the Pod Responsibly shirts. Hopefully able to print more because I love them. I think
they're super cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how you find us.
Very cool. You guys, thank you so much for coming down to Glendale for one and for having us. Yeah. Well, for agreeing to be on the podcast and talk about, in part, something that we have in common. And for me is highly educational to also learn a little bit about what you guys do. Right. And I really do think you're onto something with like breaking people's bodies and then fixing them.
In the very beginning, when I started nurturing this idea of Open Mat Physio, I didn't really think of it like that. Like, oh, wow, jiu-jitsu, because I barely knew jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I just try not to get choked. Just try not to die.
Yeah.
But over time, I'm like, oh, okay. It's like teaching people how to combat a sport where naturally you're trying to put people's positions in really bad positions.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was more of, I really hate my job and I really want to quit my first PT job.
Yeah.
How can I figure out a way to to build something where it's fun?
That's awesome.
Freedom.
Yeah.
And then we get to work with people that we want to work with.
Yeah.
That was the intention behind it.
Yeah.
Lucky. Just got lucky.
Yeah. I was training for so many years that you'd go with someone that had for me, there was a buddy of mine that had a really good spider guard. We had opposite bodies. I'm 5'10", kind of stocky. He was 6'3", pretty strong, but lanky.
Yeah.
And I had so much trouble passing the spider guard. But then he got me one day, threw a triangle on me, swept me to mount, was on mount, and then the round ended. I was like, dude, you just kicked my butt. I'm so mad right now. My ego was high. I was young, but we're friends. We're cool. And then I think he rolled with someone else and got injured. And then he was out for 2 or 3 months.
Oh no.
And I was so mad that I didn't get to train with him for that time because I was looking up these YouTube videos that were available. I bought a DVD. Shut it down.
Yeah.
So one of my good training partners was not available. And I said, dude, I just reached out to him. I was like, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? And when are you coming back? And he's just I don't know. And I was just that doesn't satisfy me.
For sure. Yeah.
Then when I was switching over things, I was I want to be someone that has answers to help people get them back faster.
Nice.
And that's when that timing just worked out really well with going into PT and meeting Diana and doing Open Mat Physio and everything else like that. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you guys do online consultations. Do you guys do workshops in person as well, right?
Yeah. So seminars, we're always down. LA local is kind of our main, but we do stuff I'm teaching a couple seminars in June, one in Seattle, one in Portland, and then one in Maryland.
Nice.
So it's a women's jiu-jitsu camp. That's pretty cool.
Super cool.
And then we're trying to plan more around the area as well. So if anybody's interested, let us know. Come through. It's all donation based. Whatever you feel comfortable with sending us is totally good. All donation based. No specific fee or anything because we just want to spread knowledge. And it's really fun, to be honest.
Yeah.
We just go chat people up, hang out. We like to yap, so we just yap with everybody.
Nice.
And then, we do online. Currently, we're still mostly online, so you can just find us on our website or Instagram, and you can just contact us. But my coach, Isaac Doderlin, is opening up his school in Monterey Park very, very soon. We'll probably be doing some in-person stuff there.
Nice.
So we'll have a bit of a hybrid situation.
Amazing. I have been footlocked by Isaac. He's yeah. He came to give a seminar at Legacy on footlocks. Yeah. Very
that's
cool.
A specialty.
Yeah. Amazing. You guys, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.